Good morning and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. I am your host, the business diva, Melanie Collette. We are broadcasting live this morning from Cape May Courthouse, and it is absolutely beautiful right now, but my understanding is it's supposed to rain, so I'm kind of bummed out about that. Uh, but what are you going to do? That said, I am very happy that we have with us this morning as our guest the one and only Ron Edwards of Ron Edwards Notebook. And if you caught my quick promo this morning on Facebook, I went on and on about how he is just knowledgeable about basically everything. Now he is listening. I have not introduced him yet, but if you hear him giggling in the background, that's because he's listening, and I have him on the line. But I'll introduce him after the first break. But he really is. He has a show in his own right on the Exceptional Conservative Network, which we'll talk about. But his commentary called the Ron Edwards Notebook is what he is really famous for, if you will, and justifiably so. It is just it's usually 1.5 to 2 minutes, and it's worth every second because it's just so hard hitting. It is. I play it on my show, and it's so hard hitting and so impactful. Like, I laugh at how in your face it is. It just makes me giggle. And even though I literally hear it five times a week because I play it every single day, I giggle in the same places every day, which amuses me that I do that. Because you're hearing the same thing over and over again, but you're still laughing about it. But it's just because whatever it is that he is saying is so true, but he says it in only a way that he can. And so I'm so happy to have him as a guest this morning, and you will see exactly what I mean. Plus, today we will also have the 5 minutes of personal finance, which, as I always explain, is not a hard 5, so don't hold me to that. It could be 5, could be 7 minutes, could be 3 minutes. It just depends. But we're going to talk about, for wedding attendees this summer, we're entering into wedding season, and we're going to talk about how to survive the wedding season without breaking the bank. Weddings are expensive for the bride and the groom and the parents, but it can also be expensive as a guest. And God forbid you have more than 1, 2, 3 weddings to attend. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can save money as a wedding attendee, something a little light and fun to talk about. But before we get into that, a little housekeeping. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter and know in advance who my guests are going to be, the best way to do that is through social media, which is, of course, Facebook, Twitter, etc. On Twitter, it is at Money Talk Mel. On Facebook, it is at Money Talk with Melanie. On Pinterest, it's the Money Talk with Melanie show. And if you would like to email me, if you would like me to cover any topic on the 5 minutes of personal finance, if, I don't know, you'd like to tell me you think my blouse is ugly or something like that, you can email me at moneytalkwithmelanie@gmail.com. Finally, if you would like to be a guest on a show, if you are, a politico of sorts, you're an entrepreneur, a CEO, or you just have some innovative ideas that you'd like to talk about in business, you can contact me via phone. Leave me a message at 937-756-6639. Okay, I'm going to take a breath now. And just so you know, I didn't mention this, just so you know, other people who have been guests on the Money Talk with Melanie show, in addition to wonderful guests like Ron Edwards, I've also had Senator Ted Harvey, Senator Albert Guillory on the show, Colonel Rob Maness. One of the Fox specialists, Ebony K. Williams, has been a guest on the show a couple of times. So, you will be joining quite the list of esteemed guests. So, if you'd like to do that, feel free to contact me. We'll chat about it. So, what's been going on in the news here lately? Not that much. It's been really a dead news cycle since DJT's been in office. And that, of course, would be sarcasm. No, they're still, people are still just like losing their complete, about the U.S. pulling out of the climate change agreement known as the Paris Agreement. Now, interestingly, I saw an article this morning in BBC News where Michael Bloomberg was saying that the U.S. can still fulfill its pledges without us being in the actual agreement, which I thought was an interesting little bit of insight, because I thought, no kidding, which is kind of the point. We don't need government oversight for everything, federal government oversight. Like, if you want to do it, do it. If I want to recycle, I can recycle. If you want to do whatever you want to do for climate change, you can do it without a huge government involvement, federal involvement. I thought that was just an interesting comment coming from Michael Bloomberg. All these very hypocritical big CEOs are weighing in on us backing out of that deal. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that President Trump did not say that we're backing out and we're washing ourselves, we're wiping our hands of the whole agreement. What he said is that we're going to back out of the agreement and maybe go back and renegotiate so that we get a better deal. Everyone worldwide looks at the United States as like their personal ATM. And we have taken the brunt we take the bad side of every deal, financially and otherwise. We're always doing the heavy lifting. And I understand it's because we're the strongest, but certainly there are countries who could carry more of their own weight. It's to the point where we're being taken advantage of. And I think that's President Trump's position. And I think it's a good one. And as I repeatedly say, as much as I am a supporter of his policies, I'm not a big supporter of his personal style. I'm not. Why people can't seem to differentiate that, I do not know. I don't understand that, because I think from a logic standpoint, it shouldn't be that hard to do. But apparently it is. But, liberals tend to stay in their fields. So they don't really know how to do that. I'm like, yeah, me and President Trump, we have a business arrangement. We're not buddies. just like with my plumber. You know what I mean? So Claudia Cheek is, well, I usually mention this to my guests, but I know Ron already knows this. But there's a chat roll in two places. SHR Media. If you go to shrmedia.com, there's a chat roll there under Listen Live and Chat, and under SHR TV. You can see the TV, which is very cool. You can see the Facey live feed. Also, if you go to Money Talk with Melanie, you can see the Facebook Live and chat there as well. And Dave Milner, Claudia Cheek, Deborah Frazier, and Dan. Yes, and please, if you would join us if you would join us at SHR TV, that would be much better. That's the idea. That's what we're trying to do, is get everyone to join us over at SHR TV and do the chat roll there. And Dave Milner has some excellent commentary on the topic, as he usually does. So anyway, so you have to go there because I can't particularly share exactly what he said. So you might have to you should go into the chat to see what Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, who actually is not unpleasant at all. When we come back, I'm going to introduce to the audience those of you who don't know Ron Edwards, who I can't imagine who that is, but I can't wait to introduce you to the one and only Ron Edwards of Ron Edwards Notebook. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We will be right back.
Isn't it high time for Christians to stop simply waiting for miracles and praying for supernatural intervention? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, for as long as I can remember, whether in Northern Africa, Egypt, Iraq, or even right here in the United States of America, Christian believers have been living far below their biblically mandated instruction to occupy and be stewards. In the Philippines, for example, Christians have been easily overtaken and murdered by bigoted Muslims who are instructed in their little Quran to kill or convert all non-Muslims, particularly Christians, Jews, and black people. It wasn't always this way. Christians were a major force in the founding of our great republic. They often prayed for providential guidance, but if threatened, Christians were often a mighty force to be reckoned with. Between individuals, we Christians are commanded to turn the other cheek and pray for our adversary. But in the case of nations or communities of Christians, it is right for Christians to fight back and stop allowing themselves to be target practice victims of those like Muslims and Kathy Griffin, who are seeking to wipe us right out of existence. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy, because the truth is not always pleasant. From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Okay, we are back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette. And before I introduce my guest, I want to give you a little bit of background about Ron Edwards. He brings to the airwaves and speakers platform unapologetic truth, sure to keep his listening audience tuned in every time. That's the understatement of the year. He is well respected by friends and foe alike for his consistency of conviction and originality in commentary. Ron has served for over 20 years as a news anchor in several Midwest markets, including Cleveland and Detroit. He has been a guest on television, radio as a keynote speaker, and the writer of numerous articles throughout the United States. Ron hosts of the award-winning syndicated radio commentary, The Edwards Notebook, is a talented and gifted commentator with over two decades of experience. He's a well-versed journalist with a fiery delivery of humor, information, and thought-provoking conversation. The Edwards Notebook delivers a wealth of knowledge in an entertaining format. Ron was recently tapped to join the Exceptional Conservative Network to serve as a talk show host. His unique approach to the issues of the day, American history, and her Christian heritage will be heard 7 to 9 a.m. Fridays on TECN and SHR Media. He also produces and hosts the national syndicated radio commentary, The Edwards Notebook, which is now also enjoyed on TECN and on Money Talk with Melanie. Without further ado, Mr. Ron Edwards. How are you, Ron Edwards?
I'm doing quite well, and I thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
The pleasure is absolutely mine. Is there anything at all that I missed that you wanted to add for my listeners?
No, I think that you pretty much summed it up, and thank you so much.
And I just wanted to tell you that HP Pundit, a.k.a. Dan Butcher, said, and just an all-around nice guy in the chat room.
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
You're coming in and out.
I'm gonna. You know what? There's a storm coming in right near the studio. I'm listening to the lightning. I can hear it.
Oh man.
I know. So that could be why there's a little bit of an interruption. But I said
okay.
HP Pundit, a.k.a. Dan Butcher, said, and an all-around nice guy.
Okay.
In the chat roll. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
So, yeah.
So, before we get started, I just want to send out some good thoughts and prayers to the victims in Orlando, Florida. There was a shooting not just a little while ago this morning where there's numerous deaths, and they're still investigating and everything, trying to sort that situation out. So we just pray for the families and the victims of that horrible situation in Orlando, Florida. So
indeed.
And it just continues on, man. These terrorists or wannabe terrorists that can continue to wreak havoc, not only in this country but around the world. And the reason why I think it continues in this manner is because we in the West have not taken a strong enough stand against these individuals and groups to really snuff them out. We forget that we're in an actual war. The terrorist organizations, the Islamists, declared war on the West back in the 1970s, and they've been carrying this out ever since in the way that they know how to carry out war. And it's about time that we decide to win this battle rather than trying to contain them and push them back and try to live with them. First, they must be defeated, and then we sort it out after that. Until we defeat them, and soundly defeat them, we're going to continue to see these incidents, and they're going to be multiplied over time. They're not going to just, every once in a while. The longer we allow them to continue in this manner, the more and more emboldened they become, and more dangerous they become to our society. And we've got to put these people down.
Agreed. They can't be negotiated with. That's the thing. No. They are bent on. I didn't see that either because I was studying. Part of the reason why I look tired is because I've been studying for a major test I have to take today when I leave here, and I wasn't watching the news at all. I didn't even see that. But these people are absolutely. If you think about how strongly, if you are a Christian, and you think about how strongly you and deeply you believe in Christ, they are equally as convicted in their belief in 72 virgins and in the fact that Christians should be exterminated off the face of the earth. They're equally as convicted. So do you think they... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're more convicted. If you look at the average Christian today, many of them, and I call them this, Wimpus Americanus apologeticus, they're running around here thinking that we can make nice with them, make friends with Kool-Aid. Remember that old commercial?
Yes.
And that if we just make nice with them, they're going to turn around and be nice to us. No. If anyone, I hate to tell people to do this because it's a hateful book, but take the time, as Thomas Jefferson did, to look at the Quran, look at their philosophy, and what animates these people, and go from there. Don't go by what they say on television. Don't go by what the leader of the Palestinian army says to us publicly, but focus on what he says privately to his fellow Arabs, which comes directly out of the Quran. To lie to us, to pretend to be our friends when the time is necessary for them to advance their cause, to destroy us, not only physically but economically, any way they can to make strong inroads. And people have to understand it's them or us. And that's the time we live in. And even when it comes to, I know that my main focus today was supposed to be about economics. Even in the battle of economics, it's them or us.
Yes.
We cannot have prosperity in this country in the long term with a mongrel economy like we have today.
Right.
One side is going to win or the other. I suggest that we push back as Americans and try to reestablish true capitalism in this country, because that is the only viable economic way that you are going to have prosperity, or the possibility of prosperity for the masses. It's the only one. There has never been an economic system in the world until capitalism that made available opportunities for any and everybody.
Absolutely.
You know, people are talking about, well, I want an opportunity, I want a break, I want a job, I want to open a business. Well, unless you have true economic freedom under capitalism, you're not going to have that chance to prosper. And that's what we need to start teaching our young people again in our schools. We need to start, teaching this to our children. We have a son. He's doing very well. He's going to be going to the School of Economics, the Mike Ilitch School of Business. Mike Ilitch, he's the famous the guy who started Pizza Hut and all of that. And he left behind a wonderful business school. Well, our son wouldn't be going in that direction unless we had taught him about capitalism and economics and things of that nature.
Exactly.
And so this is what we need to emphasize to our young people, and get them away from the drivel that they hear in school that capitalism is evil and that it discriminates against minorities. I mean, you should hear some of the crazy things they tried to teach our son in school.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. I taught financial literacy in a public school, and fortunately,
Okay.
yeah. So I believe me, I know. I taught accounting and financial literacy in a public school, and it's part of the reason why I no longer do, because because I found myself removing so many things from the curriculum because I refuse to teach it. I'm not teaching that buffoonery. It's ridiculous. They infuse so many left-wing things, and that is absolutely indoctrination. And I wouldn't do it. And that's part of the problem that we have as, when you're conservative Christian and you're trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? We won't do what liberals will do ethically. Like, if you're a teacher, you see no problem sitting on your high horse as a liberal and teaching and influencing kids to think the way you think, when that is patently wrong. They are not your children. You know what I mean? So while I took out things that I thought, were very liberal leaning teachings, I did not replace them with conservative Christian teachings. You understand what I'm saying? Because I felt like that would be wrong. They're not my children to do that with. But liberals will do that in a New York minute. You know what I mean?
And they've done it.
Absolutely.
Done it all the time. That's why we're in this position that we're in.
Absolutely.
Economically in this country, because they did take the good teachings out, and the people that were taught these wrong things are now in position, and not only in government, but in our banking system. Look at how horrible our banking system is, and how we lent over so much of our economy to the IMF and these international organizations that are working against our country. And I was so happy you mentioned about the the Paris Agreement that Trump pulled us out of. I thank God that he did that, because there is no way, it is impossible to change the weather by throwing a bunch of money at it, at the problem.
And
okay, let's
go ahead.
you,
I'm sorry.
you extract $2 trillion from the United States economy, eliminate 6.5 million jobs over the next 20 years or whatever. What does that do to stop changing the weather? That has nothing to do with it. This is another ploy to redistribute wealth from this country around the world. And he saw through that. And he, being more patriotic than his predecessor, decided, I'm not going to go along with harming my country in this manner. While at the same time, you have nations like China and India being given carte blanche to choke the world with more coal burning, I mean, it's just crazy.
Well,
and for Americans to disdain or hate Donald Trump for protecting our own country from this boondoggle and waste of our own capital is beyond comprehension. It is far beyond common sense. It's buffoonery. It's stupid. It's just crazy.
It is. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of before they just, everything went all non-smoking everywhere, which, quite frankly,
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with, because I hate cigarette smoke. But, but I definitely have a bias there. But remember when it used to be you had a no smoking section? It's the same principle. Everybody knew that was buffoonery. No smoking section means nothing. It means zero. And listen, even now, when you have no smoking buildings, but you have to walk through a huge cloud, a concentration of smoke to get to the no smoking building, well, I mean, it's negligible. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I have to walk through a cloud of smoke to get to the non-smoking building, well, I may have done more damage in the long run. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So, Dave Milner said he's not sure how old you are, but Dave's just old enough to remember in the 70s where we were, quote unquote, just about to have an ice age. Exactly.
Yeah, 1977. That was a big year for the promotion of that idea. We were supposed to be freezing to death all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And well, it didn't happen. And and besides, when they talk about they don't want the weather to change, well, I hate to tell them this, but the weather has changed from yesterday. Yesterday it was near 90 degrees here in Michigan. Today the high is 71. And when they say they don't want the weather to change, I always ask them, well, what type of weather would you like the world to be stuck on? Winter, summer, spring, or fall? You've got 4 choices. If you had your druthers, which weather pattern would you remain stuck on? I mean, to say that they don't want the weather to change is totally asinine and just goes against common sense. But, I just wanted to share a few economic principles that are so simple that, for instance, the debate about $15 an hour.
Oh, please.
That these people have been going in Nutsville about for years. Well, the city of Cleveland had sort of won the battle against that issue, and they decided not to institute that law against the businesses in the city because they have a huge restaurant industry there now. They've just been opening restaurants like crazy. They have a burgeoning tourist industry there, and it's been really going like gangbusters. So guess what? This past Friday, a liberal Obama-appointed judge struck down the ruling against the city of Cleveland. So now they're all in the panic because they think that within a year they're going to be forced to implement this $15 an hour boondoggle on the restaurant industry. And guess what's going to happen? The same thing that happened in Seattle. And
Yes.
I think Portland also. And what happens? Businesses either shut down, or in the case of McDonald's, they bring in robots, and people lose their jobs.
Of course.
And see, the people that are pushing these ideas, they know this. They understand this. And people, and the masses don't understand that they are being used or being tempted in an effort to destroy our economy. And that's just one little effort. That's just one little minute, effort in the entire situation here to destroy our economy. It's not about, people making more money. It's not even about that.
Of course it's not about that.
People are too ignorant to understand that. They're not stupid.
Bingo.
They're ignorant because they're mistaught.
Yep. Exactly. And that is the thing that really is bothersome, is that you understand that it's not. First of all, people misunderstand the word ignorant. They think it means the same thing as stupid. It's like, no. Yeah. It doesn't mean the same thing as stupid. It means you just don't know this. If you had this knowledge, if you understood the way the economic system worked, you could understand it. We could explain it to you. If you would be able to understand it if you took the time to research it. You took the time. I always say, I joke with a friend of mine who's a big fan of like reality shows like Kim K and Atlanta Housewives and all that kind of stuff. And I always say, less Atlanta Housewives, more Washington, more, Wall Street Journal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stay informed, a little more substance to the things that you absorb, and you would know these things. So,
yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. And that's the problem, as Aristotle said, the incurably ignorant masses. And another thing, when you talk about the U.S. dollar, that the dollar each individual dollar used to purchase a lot more, let's say 30 or 40 years ago, than it does now. And when you talk about, well, I want to make more money. Well, with the system that we have now, every time you increase the dollar amounts per hour, what happens? the businesses turn around and raise the prices.
Yes.
The consumer pays more, and it goes, and inflation kicks in, and you end up with a lower purchasing power than you had before the pay raise.
Yes.
We have to get the dollar back on a sound money system.
Yes.
I prefer gold. Others say silver, but it has to be something that is tangible.
Well,
and which would also force the United States to spend within its means.
Yes.
And not be so debt-ridden.
Yes. And Ron, me being, I don't know if you know this or not, that I have a background in technology. And one of the things...
Yes, I've heard.
Yes. And one of the things that I'm very interested in... Oh, that's right. You do. I forgot you did hear about that. I forgot about that. That's an inside joke, folks. But one of the things that I'm very interested in are these alternate forms of currency that are based on technology, and they've been around for about 10 years, but they're growing more and more popular, believe it or not, and they're being used by many companies. You'd be surprised. I was just in DC. Bitcoin is an example, and I was just in DC over the weekend, and I saw an ATM machine that does Bitcoin exchange, and I was like, whoa. I knew that it was popular and it had been growing, but I didn't realize it was like that popular.
Becoming commonplace.
Exactly.
Yeah, I read, I'm not as, up on it as you are, but I had read a small article or blurb about the Bitcoin. In fact, it was over the weekend. And I didn't hone in on it like I probably should have, but I did. That was the last time I read something about the Bitcoin, and and how it is expanding and all of that, and is an alternative. But we have to do something other than, for instance, the debt and the deficit. I understand, yes, it's huge, and it potentially could wipe us out. $20 trillion.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the
Ron.
largest in history. However, it could easily be reduced and wiped out. The debt could easily be, but it takes a little bit of discipline.
Yes.
And it takes just the willingness to do it. It's not so difficult, but it just takes the willingness. For instance, let's say if they were to stop spending increases, no more debt increases, no more increasing government spending. Well, at the same time, you simply lower taxes, get rid of the awful corporate tax rate. In fact, I would make our corporate tax rate the lowest on earth. I would always keep it 1 point below our best competitor. Let's say if Canada has theirs, if theirs is the lowest right now, for instance, at 15%, I would have ours at 14%. If someone else lowers theirs to 13, ours would be 12 to keep us at a competitive advantage.
That is a perfect. That's a perfect strategy.
These are things that
Ron,
Trump is trying to do: get rid of these god awful regulations.
Ron, can you hold that thought
of the American people to rebuild the economy? Because that's where we're the straw that stirs the drink. The government tries to fool us into thinking that they, when we see these big government programs, that the government is paying for this or that and the other. No, well, it's you and I. We're the ones that are paying for this.
Absolutely,
and
Ron.
We have to
Ron,
rein in our government's appetite.
Ron, can I hold? Can you hold the rest of them, because we're up against the hard break to the other side of the break?
Okay.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry, I hate to cut you off because you were on such a roll, but I'm late for the break. Give me 3 minutes. We'll be back on the other side of the break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest is Ron Edwards. We'll be back in a few moments.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Reaver, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
Hi, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from the Exceptional Conservative at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd, for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. Register now at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code TECN.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcast. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. We're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio. The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America. And in this web, it was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Okay, we are back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette, and we have Ron Edwards as our guest today. And I'm so sorry that I have to cut you off in the middle of your thought. That's the bummer about radio. You're used to it too, aren't you?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I kept going, and it gets started sometimes, and you got to slam on the brakes.
I know, it's terrible. The downside of radio, those doggone breaks when you're on a roll. So I believe you were getting into regulations. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the regulation system that we have, that our president is trying to, extract from us, and so we can free up the economy. In fact, he's been getting rid of a lot of the executive orders that Ali Obama had left. Which was putting a stranglehold on the U.S. economy and putting us at a competitive disadvantage against our competitors around the world. And so, freeing up the economy, freeing up the people, we decide best how to run the economy. Whenever, and you touched on this, the government doesn't know what it's doing when it comes to economic activity. And for example, the further she gets involved, the government gets involved in the medical industry, the worse it gets.
Yes.
Now, I know of a personal situation, a good friend who has, they have a medical condition and they need to get treatment. Well, they have to wait until December to get this treatment that is needed now. And I remember not too many years ago, I lived in Cleveland, and I would see busloads of Canadians coming over to the Cleveland Clinic and university hospitals because at that time in Canada, people had to wait 6 months to get treatment that they would need it now to save their lives. And so now, because of government health care in this country, we are now in the same boat. And it's only going to get worse unless we get government out of it. And so here's another example. Right before Ali Obama was elected, you had the medical companies around the world, they agreed to be a part of an exhibition center that they were building in Cleveland. They went ahead in faith and built this exhibition center because all of the medical companies were going to be putting up these exhibits about innovations and things of that nature that were coming forth in the medical industry. Things that would be replacing, for instance, invasive surgeries in the brain and in other parts of the body, which now you have to gruesomely cut open and all of that. Now, these were to be brought forth very quickly, but because Obamacare got involved and really gums up the works, these innovative surgeries are far and few in between now, and there are very few doctors practicing it. Now, had that not occurred, had Obamacare not occurred, they would have been now commonplace. Many surgeries that people fear of tumors in the brain and whatever would have been greatly reduced as far as invasiveness.
Right.
Just that one innovation.
Right.
What government healthcare has done is not only slowed things down economically, but also slowed down innovations. And this kind of government invasion in all across the board slows down creativity, innovation, economic activity.
Well,
which does what? Slows down the economy and lessens opportunities for one and all.
Well, and here is the from a philosophical standpoint and an insidious standpoint, is that it's a matter of control and it's a matter of freedom, and that's the global picture there. That's the overarching theme that people are not understanding, is that if the government can control you in that way, then they have you. They own you. If you don't control your own destiny, you control nothing. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And they got you by the health. Oh my God. I mean,
that's right.
Once they control the health care, they can deal from the position of fear. They can,
Absolutely.
If you don't do this, you don't go along with this, you won't get this health care.
That's right.
And same thing with the food industry. The government has no business being involved in the food production industry. It has nothing to do. It should not be involved in medical care at all.
Nope. I wish we could.
Not be.
We need to figure out how to impress this upon our fellow more melanated folks, because but before I let you go, because I have to talk about ways to save money this wedding season, because it's important. A lot of weddings going on, and they're costly. I have a few to go to myself, so I'm going to share that with my audience. But before I let you go, please tell my audience how it is that they can listen to your wonderful commentary, read your articles, and etc.
Well, you can listen to the commentaries. I am on numerous radio stations throughout the country, but you can also catch them on great shows like yours, Melanie. You can catch them on just throughout in fact, go to my website, theronedwards.com, and many things are listed there. My columns are also published weekly in newswithviews.com and in Fairfax Free Citizen, the newspaper in Fairfax, Virginia, as well as fairfaxfreecitizen.com, and also on highplainspundit.com. And so we can also communicate through Twitter at the Ron Edwards on Twitter. And that's how we can stay in contact. And also Friends of the Edwards Notebook on Facebook as well.
I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I posted some of that in the chat roll. What? Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much. And I hope to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks a bunch. And I will see you in cyberspace, Mr. Ron Edwards.
Godspeed.
Same to you, honey.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, how fabulous was he? Fabulous as I promised. Yes, indeed, he was. Mr. Ron Edwards. Love having him on. Love having him on the show. Just absolutely fantastic commentary. You have to catch his commentary on my show and on others. Just fantastic. So before we go, I have a couple of minutes to talk about for the 5 minutes of personal finance, how it is that you can save money as a wedding guest this summer. Now, we are well into, or just beginning, wedding season. And if you're going to be a guest at some weddings this wedding season, here are a few tips on how to save money, especially if a few of the weddings are far away. Number one, let's think about your accommodations, your hotel accommodations. Now, I, for one, like to go solo. I like to have my own room, et cetera, et cetera. I don't like to do sharesies, but you may want to consider rooming with someone else if you're single. If you're a couple, you may even want to consider rooming with another couple. Now, I'll be the first one to admit, not ideal, but if you're trying to save money, and if you're both trying to save money in this economy, you may want to go for something like that. Another alternative, too, is Airbnb. Rent a room in the area via Airbnb rather than a hotel room. They have some really good deals via Airbnb. So try that. Skip the pre-wedding pomp and circumstance. That's a big one because a lot of times they have, the pre-engagement party, the pre-engagement party, and the pre-engagement party. I'm just saying, we don't need to do all that. I mean, look, maybe I'm old-fashioned because I am a woman of a certain age, but people need to get over themselves. It's just my opinion. Like, can we stop already? Dave Milner said we are all melanated because we're listening to your show. Love you, Dave Milner. But I mean, people really just look. If you've ever been married, you better get to focusing on that marriage. okay, instead of the wedding. Just saying, a little advice. All that pre stuff. Anyway, so if you're a guest at the wedding, I would skip all the pre-wedding stuff. Just like focus on getting to the wedding that day. Handmade gifts, especially if you're particularly close to the couple, they may appreciate something sentimental. And if you're like an artsy crafty type person, I'm not. So believe me, you're probably going to be getting a gift card from me. but if you're an artsy crafty sentimental type person and you want to save money, you may want to go with a handmade type gift. Also, get creative with outfits. Now, again, this is another thing that I don't really do. Borrow a cocktail dress from a friend. No, I don't do that. But thrift shops, that's a big yes. Big, huge yes. And discount stores, let me tell you something. I went to the inauguration in D.C. I actually went to 3 inauguration balls, and I think I spent $150 on 3 dresses. Okay? And if you want to see pictures, go to my Facebook page. And I'm sure there's pictures from every single inauguration ball that I went to. And I only spent, I don't think I spent $150. I'm pretty sure I didn't. And you know, jewelry, nice solid pieces that last forever. But the thrift shop, ideal places to get dresses for weddings and save money. You'd be surprised. The trick to the thrift shop is to go to areas where wealthy people live. That's my number one thrift shop tip. That's what you do. Oh, thank you, Dave. That's what you do with the thrift shop. Go to places where wealthy people live, because a lot of those women wear their dresses once and then they send it to the thrift shop and they're done. So that's what you want to do. And you can pick up a fantastic dress for like $10. I'm telling you, real talk. I hold nothing back when it comes to saving money and clothes. I'm all about it. And then finally, if you want to get a really nice gift, go in on a group gift. That is never a bad idea. Go in on a really nice group gift with some other guests. It's a good way to save money, and it's a good way to get the bride and the groom a really nice gift. It doesn't work as well with men, the thrift shop thing, because men don't shop the way women do, first of all, and you guys wear stuff out before you give them away. I'm just saying. Behave yourself, Dave Milner. Okay, so that's your 5 minutes of personal finance, how to save money as a guest going to a wedding. I hope that you found that helpful. I hope that you found Mr. Ron Edwards to be as insightful of a guest as I always do. And I want to thank everybody who's listening today, and thank everyone who's in the chat roll on Facey and on SHR Media. Remember, all of this is very important because it is your money. Have a fantastic day, everyone.